Already 18 games into the season for Kentucky basketball, and it's pretty clear. Mark Pope has got the Cats playing really good basketball as they get deeper into the SEC schedule.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be having a conversation with Mario Maitland of Kentucky Sports Radio, breaking down what we think about Kentucky basketball at essentially the midway point of this first season. Going to be breaking down some of the players that we think have been really impressive, specifically why Otega Oweh is just absolutely incredible. Going to talk a little bit about Coach Cal, our thoughts on him and what's happening in Fayetteville amidst his 0-5 start. Just a lot of stuff, chopping it up with Mario about Kentucky and Big Blue Nation. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So without further ado, here is our conversation with Mario Maitland of Kentucky Sports Radio. We are excited to be joined, as always, by Mario Maitland of Kentucky Sports Radio. Mario, it's been a hot minute since we've had you on, but mid-season now, Kentucky 14-4, some big-time wins, Big Blue Nation rolling. Kind of tell me, man, what are your thoughts on how the season has kind of gone so far?
Yeah, Lance, man, it's been a blast out here in Lexington. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone really expected us to do what we're doing right now. When Mark Pope started, back in April, you had certain people, I don't want to say half of the fan base or, some parts of the fan base thought that, we weren't going to be where we are today. I know some parts of the fan base thought it was going to be like a Kenny Payne 2.0. You got a former player being the coach, and, that's not going to be a good outcome, in general. But for the most part, he's really shattered expectations, man. And that's on and off the court. He's really the man in the state of Kentucky right now, and you can see it.
For Kentucky to have pulled up now to what is essentially the halfway point, to have wins over Duke, Louisville, Florida, A&M, Mississippi State, 6-4 in quad one games. If I'm not mistaken, we had 6 quad one wins, period, last season. And we're already halfway through. Of course, part of that's just how difficult the SEC's gotten this year. But man, Mario, Pope has, at least in my mind, completely revitalized the way that this program kind of felt about itself. And I don't want to say the fan base was apathetic heading into the offseason if Cal was still going to be here. But, man, it really does feel like he was the shot in the arm that Big Blue Nation needed. And he's kind of done it with a roster full of players that he threw together in about a month and a half. I mean, it's been really, really impressive, man.
Lance, I don't know who would Mark Pope has to be the national coach of the year. He has to be. There's no question about it. He checks all the boxes on the list. Even when he started, there was some speculation about him not being able to recruit. He's done that. We got Jasper Johnson, Malachi Marino coming here next year. There's been speculation on the roster that we had if we could be a Final Four team. And I'm going to be honest with you, Buzz Williams said it the other day in a press conference. He said that Kentucky is a national championship quality team, and I think we're seeing that. And you kind of talked about it already, Lance. The wins over Duke, the wins over Gonzaga, the win in Mississippi State, I believe. You getting those road wins in tough environments and against some of the very best in the country. You definitely got to tip your hat off to Mark Pope. In my eyes, he's a national coach of the year. Just in respects for what he does for the state of Kentucky and how he is off the court and a great leader he is and a great ambassador he is for the state of Kentucky already, man. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in this next few weeks. I think it's the more important season is this is probably their most important part of the season. You want to have some good rhythm going into the SEC tournament and going into an NCAA tournament. But a lot of my concerns have really been answered, Lance. I was worried about this team in terms of, if they have a guy, and honestly, I think the good thing about it, there's a few, there's Otega Oweh, who's kind of under the radar a little bit, doesn't really get talked about a lot, but he's very consistent and he steps up big time. And then Jackson Robinson, he's coming into his own at the perfect time. These last few games, he's been great. And you can't forget about Lamont Butler. He's one of the better point guards in the country. Doesn't get talked about a lot. I think he brings a lot to the table in terms of being a two-way guard, being able to guard, opposing point guards and opposing two guards, all that good stuff. I think he doesn't get enough credit. And like I said, they have a lot of weapons. It's a very deep Kentucky team, and they're gelling at the perfect time. They're getting better, Lance. They're getting better.
Well, you mentioned a guy that I really am excited about in Oweh. Before we get to him, I do want to kind of revisit something else you also said there about Kentucky being a national title caliber team. We can get into what history says about Kim Pom and what teams have done in the past when they've had this defensive efficiency relative to this defensive efficiency. We can talk about what Alabama did with their lack of defense last year, making the Final Four. We can dive into all the numbers. But like you said, Mario, like they've already beaten some of the best teams in the country, and they're going to have opportunities to do that here as we get closer to March. So in your mind, this is in fact the team that can win the national title. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, if you look at I think fans were kind of concerned because we don't have that star power that we usually have. But when you look at the past championships teams, it's not much star power. It's more of a team oriented talent. Team, each player on the team gives their respective, piece to the overall equation. And like I said, I think they have a chance, Lance. I think, the defense is a little bit concerning at times, but the overall thing is that they're getting better. If you look at this team compared to when they first came out against Duke, it's a much better team than they were when they played Duke. And I got to give my credit, all my credit to Mark Pope. I mean, the guy makes adjustments. You can't. Whether he has a saying that's really popular in Kentucky. It's he likes to collect data at halftime and stuff like that, and he does exactly that. He makes adjustments. He's really good at that, and that to have a guy in the forefront of that, Lance, you're going to go far in the tournament when you need those 6 wins and you're coming to play against some of the very best in the country. You definitely need somebody who can make adjustments and rally around that team pretty much.
All right, before we continue our conversation with Mario Maitland, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. This message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all of the football action. Now, of course, it's playoff time here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, and here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 different players, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple clicks. You get ready to run your game this football season by downloading the app today and using code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait, take your game to the next level here with Prize Picks. That is Prize Picks. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. What's been so impressive to me is exactly that. It's going into halftime. You have different issues that you see, whether it be rim defense, whether it be shot selection, whether it be who's getting the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And then they come out of halftime, and they almost look like a different team. They just completely flip the script. We've seen it against Duke. We've seen it against the Zags. We've seen it against Texas A&M, where you didn't have a good shooting half. Then all of a sudden you come out, play way better in the second half. You kind of control them defensively as well. And really, when you start to look at some of the individual pieces on this roster, Mario, you said it. He's been kind of quiet, but he's the leading scorer on this team that averages almost 90. Somebody that has been phenomenal in these second halves has been Otega Oweh. For me, he's my surprise player here. And I know that he was a good pickup from Oklahoma, but I didn't expect him to be leading scorer by a pretty solid margin like this good. So I want to ask you, first of all, who is your surprise player on this team if you had to pick one? And second of all, is it Oweh? Like, what do you think about him and his performance this year?
It has to be Oweh. He's still not getting really talked about a lot, to be honest. You know, he kind of, flies under the radar a little bit, but he's probably our best athlete on this Kentucky roster in terms of, of what he can do on the floor. I was a little bit, I think that really surprised me about his game is his jump shot. He has it's a funky looking jump shot, to be honest, but he's knocking him down, man, and he's consistent. There's some games early on in the season where he kind of, disappeared in that second half. The Gonzaga game, we didn't see much of him, but as the year continued to go on, we're seeing him step up and kind of understanding his role a little bit more, in this Kentucky team. I think he has a chance. I don't know if there's any NBA draft picks on this team, but if there's anybody, it's definitely going to be Otega, Oweh, Jackson Robinson. Those two are phenomenal, and I think he's right along that path to bring Kentucky to the right level.
It's something, man, that again, I know we're just kind of heaping praise on Pope here for a second, but when you look across this roster, dude, and you start to think about the individual pieces that kind of make it up, you've got your Lamont Butlers, you've got your Carrs, you've got your Garrisons, Brea. Obviously, some of these guys were like efficient offensively at their previous stops. But I mean, if you want to get into like the nitty gritty numbers, Lamont Butler taking a massive step this year, shooting almost 40% from three, almost 60% from two as your lead guard. And he's known for his defense. And he's been able to kind of see those improvements statistically. Amari, his assist rate skyrocketed. Garrison, he's played very well in that department as of late. He can shoot the three, which apparently is a thing that he's just added to his game.
He can. Yeah, he can. That might make him a draft pick too, to be honest, in Garrison. But yeah, like they're all really they're a lot better than we thought, to be honest, when you think about it. But yeah, like my favorite player right now is Otega. I really like what he brings to the table. I love what Lamont does. You talked a little bit about him. He's a dog. Like he's on defense. He's so pesky. Like he's a very pesky defender, and it's good to have that. He seems like a great leader for the team, and I think we're in January. We're headed into February. Like I said, they're getting better, and guys are really knowing their roles now. We're starting to see Ansley Almanor really come into his own and being kind of playing that 6-man role, come off the bench, hit a few shots here and there. Travis Perry, we weren't even sure he was going to play this season. Obviously, Kurt Kriisa kind of, change things a little bit for Travis Perry, but he's stepping up in his own as well, Lance. So like I said, they're getting better. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in this later part of the season. Most important part of the season is right now, I believe, and you want to gear up and make sure you're taking care of the little things. I think Mark Pope is going to be doing that.
Well, let's go ahead and get into that. Talking about Kentucky here, they take on Vanderbilt this Saturday, a game that personally I'm a little worried about, just seeing how the Commodores handled the Vols this past weekend. But this stretch of games, man, it does not get any easier for you. You got the Vols after the Commodores. You got Arkansas, obviously the game of the year there on February 1st. It just keeps going on and on and on. What are some of the things that Kentucky has to do better here in the back half of the season if they want to continue to improve their record?
I think it's all about rhythm. I think you just lost one against Alabama. Kentucky's been really good at bouncing back after a loss. I think they're undefeated in terms of they've never lost 2 in a row all season. So that's something that you got to look out for, and they got to continue that. And I think rebounding is something that they definitely got to improve on. They're playing. So Vanderbilt's probably not not as athletic as Alabama. Alabama's a crazy athletic team, but you still want to, make sure you're handling the rebounding. The thing about Kentucky, Lance, I like about this team, and this is how I know they've gotten better. They're winning games, and they're not shooting well. They're shooting okay, but they won a Mississippi State game, and they didn't shoot well, and they figured out a way to really go in there and win one in such a tough environment. When you're a team, you definitely got to figure out, how to win games when things get tough, when your shots are not falling. Those are the best teams that end up with the trophy, when it's in March. So I think they have a chance to do that. This is the part where they have to continue to get better, and they can't take steps back. They can't take steps back, if you get what I'm saying. If they do that, then it's not going to be great for SEC tournament time.
Speaking of that, that's actually kind of what I wanted to get to here for just a second. So right now, 14-4, 3-2 in the SEC. Like I mentioned, those 6 quad one wins are huge for the net. But according to most sites and according to most people, if you ask them, Kentucky's probably going to finish around that 21-10, 10-8 mark, which would have them going 7-6 here over their last 13 in the regular season. Getting to that SEC tournament, getting to the postseason, where do you see this Kentucky team finishing if you were just to throw a number out there in terms of projection win-loss? And again, they're at 14 right now.
Probably like seeding-wise, I'll probably say NCAA tournament, I'll probably put them around the 4 seed, maybe.
Okay.
Around that range, which is, this is good for Kentucky. You don't like being those high seeds, you're going to – It is a little bit tough, being those high seeds, But the thing here is the thing. I think Kentucky, seeding or not, regardless of what they play, the team that I've watched over this course of the few months, Lance, they can beat any team in the country, and they can beat any type of team in the country, right? Like Gonzaga plays different from Duke. Florida is a different team than Duke, and they still manage to walk away with a win. Alabama's a team that shoots, like they like to shoot a lot of threes. They're super athletic, and we lost by only a few points the other night. So I feel like Kentucky, they can beat any team and any type of team as well. It doesn't matter if they're playing a team that's small or if they're playing a team that's rugged like Mississippi State that likes to be physical and grind it out. I think they're showing that they can beat all different types of teams, and in the tournament you got to be prepared for that.
All right, wrapping up here, the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Before we do so, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel is what makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting, because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if they win their first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is super easy to navigate. They've got a variety of bets just to keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or you're just looking to add a little bit of fun and some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has got you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this NFL playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's going to be a tough out here for the back half of the season with the Kentucky Wildcats and Mario Maitland of KSR here with us. And Mario, I wanted to talk about something that's kind of been the hot button issue over this past week or so. And that's our former head coach, John Calipari. He's not playing well at Arkansas right now, 11-7, 0-5 in SEC play are the Hogs. First time that Cal, it was like first time he's 0-3 since UMass, and it was first time 0-4 since UMass. And now here he is at 0-5. Everybody's got a thought on this. Everybody's got an opinion, from ESPN all the way down to what I'm doing here. Everybody's got a take on kind of what's happening here with Coach Cal. Break it down for me, man. What on earth is happening?
I think everybody's just really shocked. 0-4 to start the SEC, SEC play. I think the shock, the aspect of how shocked everybody is really coming to the surface. We're here in Kentucky, man. We talk about it all the time. I know some people don't like to talk about it, but you kind of have to. He is our former coach. When you get anything new, you compare it to the old, right? That's in anything in life, and I think it's normal for people to talk about it. Is it a surprise, really, Lance? Of course. Yeah, it's a very surprise. I'm not sure what's really going on over there in Arkansas. I've heard many different things from former players as well, that some former players, I'm not going to name drop anybody, but some former players believe that he's lost his edge a little bit. He's not necessarily the Cal that once coached them in the past. So, like I said, I'm not sure what's 100% what's going down in Arkansas. It just looks like they're just not – it's not a good time. In my opinion, I think honestly he's a motivator. I think he's more of a motivator type coach, and maybe they're lacking somebody over there in terms of X's and O's. Maybe you need that personnel on your staff, and maybe he doesn't have it. I mean, I don't 100% know what's going on there, but that's kind of my speculation. I'm honestly just glad that Mark Pope is working out for Kentucky as a Kentucky fan, as a media member of Kentucky. I'm sure Kentucky fans are saying, hey, we told you so, to pretty much everybody.
Anybody that will listen. I have been the things that Arkansas is struggling with in terms of efficiency, in terms of coaching, X's and O's, the team actually bidding together. These are all complaints that obviously everybody has had. But I've been sitting here on this show for what's going on 3 years now, talking about every single issue and about how it was never changing. And here he is at Arkansas, and things just still kind of haven't changed. And you kind of hold out that hope if you're an Arkansas fan, right? Because you look at the roster, you got guys like a Thiero, Boogie Flan, DJ Wagner.
No, they're talented.
They're talented.
That's what makes it even more shocking, because it's like it's not like they have a team full of scrubs. They have like a Thiero's an all conference player. Like DJ Wagner's an all conference player. Boogie Flan's going to be a top 10 pick possibly in the next NBA draft. They're not a team that's full of scrubs. They got some guys that can ball on there, and it's not gelling. It's not working. And you know, the common denominator is, I don't want to say it's Cal, but you kind of have to look that way in terms of like what exactly is going on in Arkansas. And we as Kentucky fans and Kentucky media, we've seen this before. You know, this is nothing new. And I don't know, man. I honestly hope for the best. You know, it's going to be fun when we match up against them. Atmosphere, the environment in February 1st is going to be epic here in Lexington. And I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
So that was the thing I was going to get to here is you go and look at their next two games, back-to-back games at home against Georgia and Oklahoma. They're favored to win both of them. If they find a way to get both those games, all of a sudden start to kind of flip the script a little bit, man, you can imagine that Kentucky game. It doesn't matter what happens beforehand. They could be 0-7 for all Kentucky fans care. That's going to be one of, if not the game of the year in college basketball. The atmosphere is going to be special. And the question I wanted to ask you, Mario, is what do you think the reception will be from Kentucky fans when Cal walks into that arena? Will it be booing? Will it be cheers? What do you think the reaction is going to be?
Well, reaction is definitely the booings. If there's cheers, if you hear cheers, the booing is going to heavily outmatch anything compared to anything else. Like, you're 100% going to be hearing boos. I'm pretty sure that's just the way it is, you know, to be honest, you know. And I don't think like Kentucky fans really take it as a personal thing with Coach Cal. At least I don't see it as a personal thing. I don't know who he is as a person. I never met him. And as far as what I know, he's a good dude. You know, he's helped families from, you know, all his players, and he's helped families in the communities in Kentucky's as well. But I mean, when we're going against a former coach who, you know, decided to leave and kind of wanted to come back at the last minute, and we kind of were like, you can't do that. You breached the contract. I mean, there's some fans are gonna be like, hey, it's time to go. Like we respect what you've done, but hey, I think they're still gonna boo him in Rupp Arena. I mean, he is on a rival team. Like, he's coaching a rival team in Arkansas, so.
I'm fascinated to see what it's going to be like, man. I think that game's going to be huge. And if I'm not mistaken, that game's going to be like a late tip. It's like 9 p.m. Eastern.
Dude, everybody's talking about the game. I'm just thinking about the Thursday, Friday, 2 days before, when you can kind of feel it in the air. Like, and that's people think, like, the funny thing, Lance, like I know you kind of get it as well on social media when you post clips about Coach Cal, and you get the response of, you know, why are you so obsessed with Cal? Why are you? Because we get that too on Kentucky Sports Radio. But if you think it's bad now, just wait till that Thursday, Friday, when basically the entire country is talking about it in the sports world. Everybody's
going to be looking, man. Everybody's going to be looking. Final question to you here, Mario, before we let you go. Again, thank you so much for hopping on.
No problem.
You mentioned the recruits earlier, man. You mentioned guys like Marino, Jasper Johnson, Caden Lewis. Lewis is personally probably my favorite player out of this recruiting class coming up. And you've got some bucket getters, dude, that are about to step foot on campus.
Yeah, it's
projecting out. What you think about the class? What you think about the team with Mark Pope?
Great class. I mean, if this is, I hate to talk about Mark Pope so much, but I mean, it shows how great he is, because look what he's doing without, truly getting the recruits that he deserves to get. And he's going to get those recruits next season. But this is what he's doing, without that. And when he gets the Jasper Johnsons and Malachi Marinos and Caden Lewis, those are stars. I mean, I think Jasper Johnson, he can play in the NBA today. Like today, I think he's that good. And we're getting him, and you put him in a system that Mark Pope has, and you have a Caden Lewis. I think Malachi Marino is going to develop into a special player as well. Might take a little bit more time compared to those two, but like, you got to be excited. You might get Caleb Wilson as well. So it's looking good for Kentucky, man. It's a new era that's really started here, and you have to be excited about it, especially when you're getting guys like Jasper Johnson and Caden Lewis.
For me, I'm pretty stoked right now, man. Pretty stoked. We got
excited.
A big second half of the season coming up. This is Mario Maitland of Kentucky Sports Radio. Mario, again, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Tell everybody where they can find your content, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. They can find it on X. I think it's Mario Maitland _3. And then on Instagram, I'm on there, TikTok, all social media platforms. You guys can give us a follow. I appreciate you having me, Lance. It's always fun to come on here and chat it up with you, man. Talk a little bit about Kentucky basketball.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. All right. That was our conversation with Mario Maitland of KSR. Really appreciate him hopping on the show again. Always great stuff there with Mario, and great stuff from the KSR crew. As always, if you want to go follow their content, again, you can find Mario on Twitter. Link to his Twitter will be in the description. If you want to go give him a follow, you absolutely should. He makes great content with the Kentucky Sports Radio crew. You want to go subscribe to their YouTube channel, you absolutely can as well. I believe it's Watch KSR if you want to go look that up. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless. Man, we got to get this Caleb Wilson stuff sorted out here pretty quickly. We'll see.